Hello, 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 my people. Yeah, welcome. Welcome to today's episode of Real Estate Business with Debo. And of course, we are being supported today by School of Estate as well. And so you'll be seeing this material across the platforms. Now, today is a very special episode because we want to speak to one major document in the Nigeria built space. Is the National Code, National Building Code, right? Some don't even know that we as a nation have a building code. Then others who know that this code has been long existing and sincerely outdated and really needs a lot of review. And there's a development. Lagos State recently said in the year 2025, which is this year, they'll be coming out with a building code for the state. And the way that communication was framed, it seemed like they want to do an improvement to the existing national code, which is a wonderful and welcome development. So, for us here at Debo Adejana TV and School of Estate, what we want to do is contribute our own quota to some of the things we believe should be looked into when it comes to reviewing the National Building Code. And to do justice to that, right, I have to my far left is builder Segun Adeniji, a registered builder who's been practicing in the built space for a considerable length of time. And we have also beside him, also nearer to my left, is architect Jide Simisaye. I think myself and architect Jide Simisaye come a long way. I remember our very first seminar around May 2005. He was part of our facilitator, myself himself, and another friend, Afolabi Folayan. So you're welcome. It's been a long time. That's like 20 years now. And he's been practicing even before then. And he's still practicing. A renowned architect with a number of projects down his belt, you know. And we have also closest to me, to my left here, engineer Saibu Ajibade, a renowned engineer, civil engineer, structural engineer, and you obviously know that by dint of age, he has a number of experience in this field, definitely down his belt. So, gentlemen, you're welcome to this episode, and thank you for gracing us with your presence. And also, we will definitely get to learn from your wealth of experience, and for taking part in, contributing to this, because this is your own quota, and we really, really count it a great privilege to be doing this with you. Thank you very much. So, guys, I'll be right back, and we'll be discussing the National Building Code. That's Nigeria National Building Code. The review, the suggestions, and things that should be looked into. See you when we're back. Welcome back, viewers. Now, so I just want us to shoot straight because we really don't have so much time and we have a lot to cover. I know that the building code is, if you break it down, it covers a lot of things. This is a document that was introduced into the Nigerian built industry in 2006. And we are like about 19 years into it now. Definitely by any standard across the globe, it is overdue, we may say, even for review. So maybe just to start from builder Segun and go this way. If you are to contribute to the review of the National Building Code, which is what we are doing here, can you tell us some of the areas you would want to be looked into? Some of the subheadings or areas of the code that you really want to be looked into?
Thank you so much. The areas that I would like to look into, first of all, is the enforcement area.
Enforcement.
The enforcement. Because looking at the building code itself, we understand that there are just basic minimal parameters for us to have sustainable buildings and buildings that have high level of structural integrity. But if you look at it over the years, the building code that we've added, if you look at it over the years, and let's ask ourselves, does this building code provide solutions to the issues we've been having over the years? Are there provisions for all of these things? Yes, there are, but what are the exact issues?
Enforcement. So for you, it will be enforcement. Architect Jide, what will it be for you if you were to just mention one major area that you probably want to be looked into?
For my profession, is the design.
Design.
Universal design. Designing for purpose, it is residential, it is commercial, and the zoning aspect of society. Where we zone buildings from commercial to industrial to residential.
That will be a challenge, though. Because I know that zoning is something, it's almost like a living organism. Zoning is always work in progress as it is. I'm not sure you can, I know what you're talking about, but I'm just looking at the challenges of keeping up with that.
There's an existing plan.
Yes.
From the town planners.
Exactly.
How every community is zoned.
Is zoned, yes.
But this has been distorted over time.
Over time. Okay, we'll come to what is causing those distortions and how you think the building code would be able to cope with that. So, engineer. Yes, sir. Engineer Jibade.
Thank you very much for inviting me to these discussions.
You're welcome, sir.
Now, in my own case, I think we need to put some systems in place before.
Systems
And let them work.
Hmm.
And if those systems are not working, I will call them empirical systems.
Empirical systems, that's measurable, quantifiable.
For instance,
Yeah.
in the built industry,
Yeah.
we have constituent materials that are made use of.
Yes.
In building up any structure, any member. All the structure, they are made up of different parts. For instance, sand,
Yeah.
cement,
Yeah.
the aggregate,
Yeah.
fine, quartz.
Yeah.
Now, any project that has to be done anywhere, whatever sand is being brought to you,
Yeah.
you start making use of it, not knowing what are the chemical compositions of that sand or of that granite. And without knowing it, you have no standard.
Hmm.
So therefore, the rudiments of all what we want to talk on today, if we even the code that we are even talking about,
Yeah.
the ad initio, the code that has been in place all this while.
Yeah.
Or let me put it tacitly, the code that the PS, first of all, we started from CP110,
Yeah.
and we now come to PS 8110. Now, they are based on the sand and granite, other cores of fine aggregate in their own locality that are found there.
Okay, when you say their own, you mean maybe like UK?
UK, yes. It's based on their own materials there.
And that's what we are using
And
here.
that's what we are using here.
Meanwhile, people go to farmland and just excavate sand.
Somebody should sit down and tell me sand brought from Ikorodu, these are the constituents. And if you use it in concrete, this is what it will produce. Sand from Magino, this is what it will produce. Sand from Abeokuta.
From Lagos Ibadan Express.
So we needed to analyze all this first. Now there are, in fact, if I told you there are more than 20 tests on sand alone that need to be carried out.
So our labs should be busy.
Of course, you need to test all this to be able to come to a conclusion that if you now join it with some other aggregate, this is what it will be. Now, the quartz aggregate in itself, the granite, we have granite ice, we have ocean ice, we have basalt, we have all these various granites. Now, the average contractor, when he gets to site, give me granite. Which type of granite? The only thing now that people now know is, oh, this one is white and this one is black. But which one is better? Which one gives what strength? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. So how do you put a code on such when you don't know what you are even building on?
And I know that in some places we still use when we were growing up, there is a particular type of granite, gravel.
This is natural gravel that of course probably in America. In fact, if we were very, very serious and we want to actually raise up on our own code, we needed to be, it should be in our fingertips. The properties of that thing, comparable to present-day granite that we are using.
Yeah.
We don't have any
and what we can achieve when we use it for cement, for concrete.
I can tell you most of us, the training that we have, they are too conservative. It's what they say A, B, C, A for apple, and that's what is that apple?
You've not dissected the apple.
We have not dissected.
Wow.
Our granite, nobody has come up and tell me that, okay, this is our granite. This is the crushing strength. And this is comparable to granite. This is what it gives us. So if we want to build up any code at all, please let us like learning now to talk of even conversion of woods now.
Okay.
Now I want to take an example of where I'm working now.
Okay.
It took me 2 weeks. We wanted a marine board.
Yeah.
And I wanted the thickness because of the size of the canal.
Okay, canal.
Wow.
Oh wow.
That it has to be 20 mm.
Wow.
We can't find.
Wow.
Only 15 mm that we can find.
In the whole of
In
Lagos.
the whole of Lagos.
Wow. And if you can't find in Lagos, you probably can't find in the country.
This thing goes back to our who are the body that are saddled with the responsibility of bringing in inspecting materials.
Testing, material testing.
No, not material testing.
SON.
SON. All these organizations now are compromised. How can they be bringing 15 mm thick plywood? Because they know it will come into Nigeria and do take. By the time they break their way, it will come in.
So are you saying that 15 mm is probably coming in as 20? Is that what you're saying?
Even if it is not coming in now we want to do something, we require 20.
We can't find 20 in the country. Is it not the forces of demand and supply probably? Maybe then.
It's because there's no stand. All right now, a government of Nigeria knows what we use this marine
24.
That we use it even in constructing their own
bridges and all infrastructures.
Why are they not making sure that whatever they bring are the standard materials?
So what you're saying is that in terms of need or demand, there is demand for 20 mm marine board, for example.
Not only that.
No, we're just using that as an example.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the people who want to make gains are probably compromise the system such that they want to push something that is shorter in size as 20 mm.
Exactly.
And that's what we have in the market.
For obvious reasons now, let's go back to conversion of woods. Wood conversion. You know that now you have this 2 by. In fact, the whole system has been modeled up now.
2 by 2, 2 by 3.
2 by 2, 2 by 2 is now 1 by 1.5. 1 by 1. 2 by 3 is now 2 by 1.5.
Whoa.
3 by 4 is now 2 by 2.5.
So they are trying to satirize the wood conversions market.
That one is not even now a big deal. The big deal there on the wood conversion is that if the system that I'm referring to is that you cannot get to the market now and buy any wood that was street.
Yes, I noticed that. I noticed that.
They are all crooked.
I noticed that.
How do you do a perfect job?
So our wood treatments, all of those things are.
If you want to do it now, if you want them to treat it and make it
straight,
would dry, clean it, that is put it in the clay to dry it,
clean
that it becomes stable. The cost will not be. In fact, the price they put on contracts, you can't buy them.
Wow. So this is really a bit of a challenge.
Now,
but
there's now an interesting aspect of it which goes back to this building collapse I want to talk today. The issue of reinforcement.
Engineer Jibade, hold your thoughts. I will come back to you on the issue of reinforcement because man, there is a lot to unpack as we are going on.
Those are what I refer to as system.
Exactly. There's a lot to unpack there, and I believe that's what we'll be doing today. But I would like Builder Shegun to speak to the aspect that you mentioned, which is enforcement. If you want to drill down, would you say that in talking about the building code, would you say that we need? Okay, I didn't hear you say we need more enforcement. I just hear you say that we actually need to enforce. Okay, so don't we have enforcement? We have a lot of, if you take Lagos State for example, which is trying to come up with its own building code, there are a number of enforcement agencies, as it were. The primary one being LABSCA, if I'm not mistaken. And I see them mark sites, seal sites, close sites, and all of that, and reopen them and all. Are you saying that, enforcement is not happening with all of that happening?
Okay, thank you for that. I'd like to say, to make it clear that we have quite a number of all of these enforcements. agencies. We have all of these agencies, regulatory bodies, and all of that. But I want to say that we are not seeing the effect. Just like Engineer Adibade said, we have SOA. And how come we are having substandard materials in the market? And this is a very big menace in the construction industry. Even when you are ready to do the right thing, you know the right material to use, but you can't get them. So when we talk about enforcement, I'll give it to Lagos. Lagos has quite a number of levels of authorities, regulatory bodies, and enforcement agencies. Some other states are actually regulating Lagos, and for some other states that are not that have not started emulating Lagos too, they also have their own levels of enforcement and regulatory bodies, but we are not seeing the effect.
So more or less, it's something like, it's looking to me like, look, if we want to really enforce, just like Engineer Adibade said, we probably have to start from the root.
Yes.
Something like product quality control, for example, in terms of what we manufacture here and what we bring in, to ensure that SON does not just certify or authenticate any level of product. The enforcement and all of that has to be in.
Yes, let me just go back to, I would like to relate to what Engineer Adibade has said as regards conversion of wood. Coincidentally, late last year, early this year, I was also in the far part in some part of Nigeria, Oyo State to be precise. And these are local areas where you think you should get the best of wood. But unfortunately, even the woods that they are bringing to their sawmill to actually, the lots of wood, the unprocessed wood, they are not even, they are not mature.
So that's what I say.
And I tend to interrogate, the people working at that factory sawmill. Okay, why are you bringing this kind of wood and stuff? And these are things that are sent to us in every part of Lagos, every part of the country, all of that. So why are we getting this kind of substandard, immature kind of wood? He said it in Yoruba.
That is, there are no woods, there are no trees in the forest.
How did they start? There's supposed to be a law, which I think
we have forest reserve now.
Forest reserve that as you
even as there's a law that as you plant, as you cut one, you plant two or three. Yeah.
You plant 2 or 3. What has now happened over the years that the plantation has now happened? If we are not careful, sir, in the next few years, we won't get wood
at all. Shibi, we are using crooked now. We are getting crooked now. Immature woods now that are now.
Yeah, because that's what they are doing. Before, if you are not careful, in the next few years, we won't get wood to use. We'll start importing.
Wow.
Yes, and I have the opportunity of also relating to people in neighboring countries like Benin Republic. You dare not cut a singular tree in Benin Republic.
Wow.
This is something that I actually experienced. Somebody was just carrying a plain wood that we call 1x12. He was arrested on the road by the forest reserve, by their own forest reserve agency. He was just transporting it. He was arrested because he needed to get documentation for everything we do. You have to. So enforcement is very, very key. It's not as if we don't have all of those things, but I can't say that deep down the root of it's just like the problem we have in Nigeria, corruption.
Now, I would like you to hold your thought there. Something, let me share something that someone shared with me. He said that somebody was building something beside them. And whether they complained or the regulatory body saw it somewhere in Nigeria, they shut down the site for infringing some regulatory or building code, whatever, maybe setbacks and stuffs like that. But he said to their shock, after a while, without anything being done physically on site, they reopened the site and they continued work and completed the project. And life was normal. Now, if you also move around, you see a lot of these, especially developmental lease projects, where on a plot of land, you will see people build 25, 35 flat apartments of various sizes, studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. on a plot of not more than about 700, 750. There is no way they would have obeyed or complied with any building code to have that kind of density on a 750 square meter of land. But this site, you see that they are sealed at the time, then they are opened, and then life continues. In fact, someone was saying that they listened to a program, they monitored the program, and an official of government was saying that, they can also assist them. How? That they can report these things. When I said, look, your officers had sealed these places up before, and then they came to open it. What am I reporting again? Is it that you don't know?
But I would like to talk.
Yes, please. That's it. I'm actually directing this to you.
You see, what that officer must have said, he is not bad. Because government officials, sometimes their hands are tight and they don't have the facility or the manpower to cover everywhere.
Yes, I agree with that.
State,
I agree with that.
So there won't be, there's nothing bad in a neighbor reporting someone that is not doing the right thing.
Of course.
And you see, part of the biggest problem we have from the design stage to the execution is because a lot of us as Nigerians, we are too sentimental about a lot of things. Because this man knows this man knows this man, they allow things to fly. Like, for instance, what you mentioned earlier, that maybe on the plot of land, people will start being sentimental that the land is expensive, they need to maximize the use and all that. Definitely, if you check the approval of that particular building, I'm sure it was not approved for that purpose.
Of course.
So you don't expect probably the physical planning to start knocking on their doors to know how many people live there.
Yeah.
You understand? So this is the challenge they have on their side.
But so this is what I'm saying. There are enforcement agencies that are supposed to visit sites.
They visit, you see, these things, people, there is always...
They even seal the sites.
They do.
And then they open it.
When they open it, you see, those government officials who are very, very careful. Even though they open the sites, though some of them are compromised, you understand? But you will never see all these things on paper, right?
Exactly.
When they open the site, maybe they've complied, they've signed on the taking that they'll do it this way. But they go behind
and continue whatever they are doing.
Wow. So the only solution is for the neighbor or professionals like we as architects, like at the NIE, we're coming up with something very soon that we are going to participate in this enforcement, and when you see something, you say something.
Exactly.
Which is still, we're really working out something, and we're going to use technology.
Oh, to be able to do that.
You understand?
That would be fantastic.
So that, because it's a slap on our profession, the way these things are. That you see, like just what you mentioned, there is no regulations anymore. Everybody builds what they want. There's structure, there's houses. So we are trying to come up. In fact, it's very soon it will be out.
Okay.
That architects all over, because it will even help us as architects because there are quotas everywhere. Exactly. That is dominating the industry. That's why you see all these things. I'm sure it happens in the building profession and in the engineering. That's one of the biggest problems we have. So now, by the time we all participate, and for instance, Labka is doing something like that. They invited professionals. There's something they call CAP, so that we can participate in the monitoring of building construction.
Please hold your thought there. Now, it's beautiful that they are doing that. But I would love to see that extended to all the built industry professionals. Why do I say so? You said something when you started, that they cannot be everywhere. Sincerely, in this building code regulation and all that they are trying to do, I would really want to push for something that would incorporate private practitioners into regulation. In fact, if you ask me, I would say that government should not be the foot soldier of regulation. I believe that that is something that will make it really work. When they want to value properties, they divide regions and all among estate agents and estate surveyors and valuers, and in no time, a whole state will be properly valued. All the properties will be accounted for. It's the same way. We can regionalize and sectionalize areas of the state, and working with each professional body, say, you know what, for building supervision, builders in the country, structural engineers in the country, you can bid for certain areas and be able to be the one responsible for regulation there. You will do your job, you will report to the federal government, you or the state government, you have their backing to maybe enforce stoppage and things like that. I think that will also eliminate corruption and maybe the compromises we are talking about, because the professional will be paid anyway, and if he doesn't do his job well and any default comes from his end, he will be sanctioned, and that will be loss of business for him, as it were. I've seen this work in other countries where it is not really government that goes around. The business of monitoring and policing is actually a business for the private practitioners, and they do it very well in conjunction with the government offices. I don't know what
That's
you
exactly
see.
what I said. The Nigerian
LAPSCA.
Lagos chapter.
Oh, he's trying to
Yes,
do
but well, limited to professional
architects. Yeah.
So I'm sure if we start that, the engineers too might take it up. The builders, I don't know if they are doing something. For instance, LAPSCA is doing something on their own. By the time we all come together with this system of monitoring, I'm sure there will be a little bit of changes.
I believe that will bring sanity.
And improvements.
That will bring sanity. Okay, to try to talk about this, what role, I would now want us to speak to it generally, what role do we think insurance would play or should play? And insurance, as we know it currently within the building code, I think when you are going, is it 2 floors and above?
No, once is above
ground floor, you need to have construction site insurance, as it were. So, but it's not being enforced. Enforcement.
We call it all risk insurance.
All risk insurance, yes. Enforcement is a problem. There are a number of sites that are not. But what do we think if we are able to really better enforce this? What are the gains that we think can come out from it? And how can enforcement, again, well, we've talked about how can enforcement, let's speak to the opportunities that we think exist if that insurance thing is properly done.
Well, I think I want to speak on that.
Great.
See, when it comes to these days, the last time I said we did the work, there was this work against building collapse, but also that the society too should patronize professionals. Now, majority of the jobs that are going on in the country, and especially in Lagos, I can say probably less than 40% are being handled by professionals. Less than that.
Wow.
Now, be that as it were, their contracts are not the formal ones. They are not formal contracts. And it's only formal contracts that you want to probably get your LPG or whatever that you needed insurance or whatever. If it is a contract of between one individual and a one person, then what's the need for an insurance? Everybody is on his own. So it's only contracts that are formal, where you bid for jobs like the one recently that we bidded for in the Keja. You bidded for it probably 3 or 4 contractors. Then you are the one that will won. Then you are asked to bring in certain documents for probably they specify an insurance company for you. Yeah. Where you go to do all this insurance and some other form of insurances, so that you now satisfy the insurance requirements, and then give them the paper that they require, along with the programs and some other documents, and you can utilize that. But in this case, in most contracts, that's not the case. Wow. So where does it? And I want you to also have it in mind that virtually all clients that are into, especially building infrastructures, most to cut corner. They want everything cheap. So for him to pay for sand, cement, labor, even labor, let's put labor aside. You want to pay for every material. Even labor becomes a little challenge for him to pay. Then you now introduce insurance. I think you are talking Greek. You know what it is.
Wow.
So most contracts that are going on are formal. So where does the issue of insurance come in?
I get you, sir.
So the only thing that the only form of insurance and the angle it is coming from into the industry is through the health, safety, and environment, whereby you try to protect the individuals at low level, at that level, not because of the job, but because of themselves, whereby you force them to provide themselves with PPEs so that they would minimize injury. And probably, if it is a sizable project, you employ a
health and
safety personnel to ensure that everyone complies, maybe not even necessarily even because of the interest of the workers, but because of the enforcers. So that when they come, probably if the enforcer become loose and they come and they are not even so particular about how the workers what state they work, then the contractor relaxes.
Wow.
And that's about it.
Okay,
So the issue of insurance only comes in where you have formal.
Well, I think that bulk of what we have said today, especially to a number of things, is the enforcement angle. Because even if it is individual contracts, but I know that somebody will come to that site and would ask for our insurance, and if we can't provide it, they will close our sites down. I will get insurance. And the beauty about insurance, in a way, the way I'm looking at it, that it can help, is that, insurance is going to take on certain risk, right? And they are going to create a system to be able to take on that risk. They will create a system that would ensure that they don't have that risk crystallizing as much as possible, So they would have a system to make sure, for example, that maybe the type of materials you are using on that site is okay, and all of that. And that would, if we backtrack to a number of things, it will help us to be able to achieve a whole lot in ensuring that, for example, building collapse is reduced. The quality of job is also assured. If, for example, there is insurance regulation across buildings, if I want to buy a house and it is maybe off plan or whatever, or whether even if it is not off plan, I can ask for the insurance that they had, even when they were con.
But I want to say that before that can happen, as I'm here, I represent, in a way, the Nigerian Institute of Engineers. And I will tell you, the Nigerian Institute of Engineers is not getting its own place in the built environment yet as we speak.
Why would you say that?
For instance, now, the Nigerian Institute of Engineers cannot walk into any site. Though we have a monitoring unit, but where you have the will and the power, that power is not there for you to enforce some of your will. Like if you look at the whole built environment surrounds the Nigerian Institute of or engineers, so to say, because the materials that are going to be used, even the labor itself, and even the coordination of the labors in itself, and the supervision to make sure that the jobs are done properly and done once and in a safe environment. For this to be done, the civil engineer has to have his own stand, which is not firm as I speak. Because already even the president of NSC, they are trying to, sometime last 2 weeks now, there was a meeting with the secretary to the government of the federation as to how to engage Nigerian Institute of Engineers in most of their infrastructures that government is executing across the country. Now, if that starts, it will radiate down to the states and to individuals. So that's why I'm saying I think the fulcrum of all these activities is around civil engineering.
We will hang that there because we'll come back to it. Because I also believe that one of the problems bedeviling our built environment is coordination and understanding of each professional's role. It seems to me, right, since I've been in this built industry, that every professional claims the right to be the lead, you understand, on a project site. And our building code needs to speak to that. I believe that. To say that, you know what, we have these professionals in the built industry. We have the architects, we have the engineers, M&E, structural, civil, and M&E that same, and all of that. And then we have the builders, we have all of that. Where we have the QS, you know, where is their role? Or where are their roles? You understand? On a site, who is expected, for example, maybe to head the team? Because the architect ordinarily is supposed to be.
It's not in that.
No, the architect ordinarily you will say is supposed to design, right? But the architect will then tell you that he's supposed to also lead the execution team. Reason?
Yeah.
He said, who can better interpret what he has designed, if not him? You understand? Then the builder would say, is the builder, is the one that knows about the technology of building, who is supervising a project or heading the team. You know, without project manager will say that he's the one managing the whole project. You know, and all
Everybody
of
have their role.
that. Doctor, yes, I mean, architect Jide, can you speak?
Everybody have their role.
Okay.
I don't think that is really an issue.
Are you sure?
It's not. In a formal contract,
Yeah.
you understand? I don't think it's really an issue. Everybody knows that project manager's role is different from the architect. Most time, architect is always the prime consultant because sometimes the project doesn't start with him. You understand? But most times, the concept starts with him.
Yeah.
Maybe you have this whole idea, they've appointed the project manager. It could be the project manager that engaged the architect. Well, the role each of us are playing is quite different.
It's quite different, but who leads is usually a bone of contention.
It depends on the scope of the project.
Okay.
You understand? But most times, is always in some cases is the project manager that leads the project.
Yeah.
Sometimes the project manager can be an architect.
Yeah. All of these professionals now take project management as secondary.
But you need to have an experience as a project manager.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Not every
saying.
architect that can be a project
That's what I'm saying.
manager.
That all of these professionals now take project management
So
as
it
a secondary
depends on
qualification.
the kind of projects that we're talking about. You
Okay,
understand?
I hear you.
So, but most cases, maybe in smaller projects or, architects lead that role. An architect knows the role of an engineer. He knows when it comes to an engineer, he needs to invite an engineer. When it comes to the builder will handle it. Even the architect, his job, once he's done with the design and the design is approved and is commissioned, the next person is the QS.
Yeah.
But maybe it will still go to the engineers for structural drawing, the mechanical, the electrical.
Yeah.
Well, our roles are totally distinct and different.
Okay. Yeah, I know they are distinct and different. The issue is who leads the team. And you've said it. You said it depends on the scope of the project and probably how the project is also conceptualized and all. I would really love that an aspect of our reviewed building code will speak to that, even to say that.
Most times it's the prime consultant. We are all consultants.
Yeah.
So there will be a lead consultant who is the prime consultant. That will lead.
Yeah. Which can be the architect or somebody else.
It can be the architect
or project manager.
Sometimes depending
on the
even
project.
on the client.
On the client, exactly. So, if our building code agrees with such a position, why not? We'll be clear and we'll not have this. Because I do see that argument in a lot of built environment discussions as to, no, we are the ones that are supposed to
because
be leading this.
There is a lot of indiscipline in this profession. There is a lot of indiscipline because that's where you see a town planner doing the job of an architect. No, it's true. There's a lot
or a surveyor doing the job of a town planner.
Yes, or an architect doing the job of an engineer. So there's indiscipline. So if there is a sanity and everybody plays their role, we will now. And it's because most time, maybe because there are no sanctions, there are no punishments. You understand? We have all these things on paper, but the enforcement, like we are saying, even in our different professional bodies. In fact, there is a lot of, though Lagos State is doing a lot about that now, because in the past, there was nothing like, submission of practice license and all that. So there is a lot of changes because a lot of quacks have taken over all the profession. Like Engineer Adejana mentioned earlier, maybe I will even say 30% of project going on in Lagos is being managed by a professional.
So you are saying 30? Well, no empirical fact. We're just guessing. Yeah.
But now, because of the regulations, you need to bring practice license. There are supervisory agencies that will come. LAPCA will come. This one will come. There will be banners. Because even if you're not participating in the project, you will not want to drop your practice license.
Yes, because you don't know what is happening.
But again, there has been a lot of collapse in recent time. I've not seen any professional being prosecuted because there are documents they submitted.
Maybe there were quacks that were involved. That's
but there is. I doubt if any building will go on in Lagos now that LAPCA officials will not get there. So that's where we should ask that question. So I'm sure most projects going on must submit something.
Right.
And there is no way you submit something that it should not go with practice license of the architect, the engineer, and the rest
all
of
of that. So it still boils down to what we are talking about. But you said something earlier, talking about design, zoning and all. And I want you to speak to that to see what are the improvements you would like to see in the new building code along that axis. Zoning, design.
It is a very sensitive part.
Okay.
You understand? Because you see in the private estates where, well, most times, I won't say private, maybe government residential scheme.
Okay.
In Lagos, where you see a building, then you see two churches beside them. By the time you report that, why are we having churches there? They all know, I won't say churches alone, there are mosques too.
Yeah.
You understand? Existing in a residential zone. You understand?
Yeah.
And if you find out, most times, these churches or public places, sometimes it could be school, it could be whatever. You understand? That, because we already have all these things mapped out. What you should have in this particular area, what you should have. But how are all these things springing up?
The other ones springing up.
Yes, as in where is supposed to be.
How is a residential house turned
Why do we
into
have churches there?
Public place?
Where we have as a residential zone, you see clubhouse. That one is even the worst now. All these bar, playing loud noise,
lounges and all.
It's springing up in almost every street.
Now,
the noise pollution.
Okay,
The only solution is enforcement. But I know the challenge with the enforcement is sentiment. Sentiment. Because when you see the kind of edifices these people put up, you see, then sentiment will now come in that bringing out this building. Because I'm not really seeing any church shut down. Maybe it happens, or any mosque shut down, or a nightclub shut down. What you see is that
shut down as a closed totally and not allowed to operate.
What you will see is that where I live in Magodo, there's one big challenge there. There is a whole estate trying to fight a bar or club in a residential area. They keep closing it. The association went to the government, but that bar is still standing there today.
So maybe somebody's buying there.
Powerful is behind it.
Exactly. So
you understand?
Thank you very much for
that. We'll checkmate such thing.
Enforcement again.
You understand? That will bring sanity. If a big shot somewhere cannot do it, everybody will now know that will not even try it. But if someone else is doing it, you always have excuse that, what
about this person and all of that?
So that is a great challenge.
Before I ask the next question, let me just hear what you have to say on this. When you talk about zoning and you say, okay, you've mapped out this area for residential. I said when we opened, zoning in my own consideration is a living organism. It's work in progress. What do I mean? Take a Lekki Phase 1 in Lagos area. Take Admiralty Road. I remember way back when I was still in banking in the early 2000s, late 1990 something. very quiet area. Everywhere is residential. Admiralty Way, Admiralty Road, residential. But you see, as over 20 something years now, as the town continues to develop and evolve, there are needs really for those commercial activities that are springing up. And if you go to Admiralty Way and Road now, they are largely all commercial. But if our zoning is not dynamic in our record and you see master plan, it will still remain as residential. But we all know that if we are going to be true to ourselves right now, the face of an Admiralty Road and Way in Lekki cannot be residential, cannot remain residential. So how do you handle that?
Most of such places, there is always a revised.
So revision should be.
There is a department in Lagos State that I know of. I think it's NCDA.
Yeah, there's
They do that
NCDA,
from
New
time-
Town Development.
Yes, they do that from time to time.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm very sure.
How is there a timeline they give to revise
I'm not
the
a
uses? You are not too
professional
sure.
planner.
Okay.
No, but they do.
Okay.
Like, I'm sure such places like Admiralty, it has been revised. Other places like that, Omole, most
Okay.
of these schemes, they've been revised.
Okay, I would like to see a situation where in our code, even though we know that areas are zoned for certain things, we also specify at least some range of time that those things can also be revised and reviewed to see whether
Actually,
they are
you
necessary
see,
to.
this thing we're talking about, Lagos State has done a lot about it. This building code thing. Most professional bodies have been invited to do submission.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
I know
to
of my
submit.
own
Profession.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know.
Yeah, I know a number. Builders have also been, engineers have
so
also
a lot of
been.
people have been contacted to submit papers on this so that they can domesticate the existing one, because we know that times have changed. So this, and I'm sure some of the things we're discussing here, like the changes in zoning and all that, have been considered in the new.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. I would really love to confirm that is being considered, and very much so. Now, talking about energy efficiency, green energy, and all of that. What are the considerations currently, and then what are the things you want us to pay attention to in the new code that is coming up? Are we mindful of consumption? Are we mindful of greenery in terms of energy, being green and all of that? Are we rewarding clean energy development and designs, So, should we be doing that even more, and why?
Yeah, I think when we talk of green energy, or maybe we talk of renewable energy this time around, there's a simple step that needed to be taken from the outset, even during conceptualization. And I think there has to be a collaboration between the architect and a town planner. It seems like a marriage. Why do I say so? Let me explain. You see, we have a natural occurrence. We have where the sun rises and where it sets. And if we are mindful of that, then it means we needed to site our buildings so that our bedrooms, especially, now backs up to the west, whereby you don't have, your sitting rooms don't get hot in the afternoon. So that not every time you don't need to use AC or fan. So that you are reducing energy consumption in whatever form you generate it. So that simple design, that simple collaboration between the town planner
and the architect
is very necessary, and they needed to collaborate in that time, so that when a virgin land is being opened up, siting the streets,
the orientation
of the streets are very crucial to achieve this thing. Of course, they will now be going there with their compasses, able to site up the whole environment. So and we have missed all the list of areas as of now.
Wow. You mean all along we were not mindful of that?
Nobody was taking cognizance of that.
So I think that is something that the building code should speak to specifically. I want to believe that. I want to believe that. Thank you very much for that contribution. So let's move over to Builder Shegun. In terms of affordability, how can the building code help? Because, Engineer Jibari said something during our discussion that, look, even if you want to get this, we are talking about genuine materials, straight wood and all of that. By the time you bring the cost into these things, what we are even talking about now is not what we're talking about. Meaning that people will be able to afford whatever you are going to build. So, how are we going to be able to achieve quality at an affordable rate? Is there any way that, from your own practice, you think the building code can help us in that regard?
Yes, that's one of the efficiencies that I've also noticed in the building code. I think the government needs to be intentional and they need to be specific about what their aims and objectives are when it comes to quality control and all of this. And even when I talk about enforcement, the government needs to be very, very intentional and be specific. Do they want to make money out of these things, or they want to protect lives and properties?
Our government.
The government needs to be very, very, very specific and intentional, because if you are putting in enforcement controls, quality and all of this, the cost of going through all of these things should not be
the reason should not be money, should not be revenue generation.
Revenue generation. Once it is money revenue generation, then
it will defeat the purpose.
It defeats the purpose. Corruption, like architect said, the big shots, you'll be able to afford it, to bypass and an ordinary person cannot just say, okay, I want to bring in some materials. An ordinary person cannot say, I want to make productions. The people that are in this business of producing substandard materials and importing some of these things
big people.
Are the big shots, the people that can afford it. An ordinary person that just wants to be, I'm innovative, I've come up with an idea, I want to bring in, I want to produce some materials locally and all of that. Tell me, if you want to produce in Nigeria today, I have an idea, okay, these are materials that can be used in construction. I have this idea, I've done all of my research and all of that. I can get the local, I can get the raw materials locally and all of that. Where are the industry? Where is the energy?
Okay, fantastic.
So the government needs to be very, very intentional, so that the cost of production, because when we look at it truly, when the cost of production is too much, and you look at it, okay, fine, if I have this house and I want to sell it XYZ amount, who is going to buy it?
So you have to just see how you can bring the house to the market at a lower price and all. Okay, so I get you. So what I hear you say is that, look, we have a lot of options, but the government have to be supportive in those ways.
Yes.
And I believe that one of the options we have, like you've also mentioned, is our material types. I think that the materials we use, we still have avenues of using less costly materials that will still serve the same purpose. But maybe we are not encouraging those materials. In fact, those materials are probably even much more available in our climate and much more suitable. Aesthetics may be a bit of a challenge and stuff like that. Abi? So, can you speak to some materials? For me, I think two critical things that can help affordability, and I would like you to speak to them, are the materials. So, can we even start mentioning, if we have some, that can be used as alternatives to some existing materials, both for foundation, for superstructure, and for roofing and for finishing works, And then spaces. In terms of, for example, we have a standard room in Nigeria should be like, by the National Building Code, should be like 12 square meters.
Cross-ventilated.
Cross-ventilated. And we know in some other environment, though maybe different climate, in a UK, for example, you know that you don't need cross-ventilation, maybe for their own climate, and then the size, 70 square foot, you are good. And you have a room. And if we can use 70 square foot, for example, I'm not saying we should, based on our climate, professionals can speak to that. But we can use lesser, because whether we like it or not, people are building lesser size rooms. Now that we say our minimum room should be,
Times have changed.
and lesser size rooms would help people to be able to better afford.
That I know of.
Okay.
Because the whole world is changing. And we can't continue using obsolete syllabus to train
New professionals that will be joining the trade.
and future leaders. Though people are helping themselves by doing research on the internet and the rest of it, so that students can be aware of, because the graduates that universities and
churning
are
out.
churning out. In fact, the days we don't have internet when we're learning architecture, we are far better than what we are seeing now. That is why I think all these things are not really put to use. Talking about modern technology, sustainable materials, and building material. The unfortunate thing is that Nigeria has deposit of almost everything. Even other people come to Nigeria to export.
We see a lot of Chinese do that now.
From plastic, from steel.
Even the wood we are talking about.
Wood,
they enter our forest now.
Wood is in different categories to replace a lot of things all over the world, to make things cheaper. There is straw, and all of these things are sustainable material. A lot of them, mud bricks.
Yeah.
These things are cheaper. Must it be concrete? Must it be bricks? And so there is a lot, rubber, and there is a lot of material that could be recycled. There is a lot of things that could be
waste
recycled.
To wealth.
Yes, even scrap iron, all these things. Bamboo. We see some of these things online that people are using all over the world. So to talk a little about material, so we have a deposit of it in Nigeria that we're not harnessing. And it's because I think people are maybe either not aware or ignorant, or are not encouraged. And I think government needs to play a role in that, and our education system needs to play a role in that. I'm talking about sizes that you mentioned. It's high time that the code needs to review all these sizes, land size, setbacks, and all that, because especially in urban areas, in mega cities, because we can see that, though they are doing part of that, because we can see some of the building regulations for airspaces has been, changed in some part of Lagos State. Some things are allowed. Nobody wants to waste space the way it used to be. But even at that, we should not neglect having green.
Okay.
You understand? Green spaces, having trees around and all that. No, I know
that speaks to green building as well.
But I think the living spaces, the room and all that needs a review.
Okay.
So that due to the cost of building material now, so that it can
accommodate
people, and government needs to still come in again by encourage bulk purchasing. You understand? What else? Encourage SMEs for.
Okay.
You understand?
SMEs.
Modern SMEs. Sorry. To encourage
cottage industries that will be producing some of these things.
Materials, encourage them. There should be awareness, there should be publicity. You understand?
Research and all in our institutions.
Yes, what are our universities doing? How many universities are doing research when they are even fighting for salary? So
they are to an extent.
I know they do, but research needs money.
And the research actually also needs to be adopted by the town.
Yes.
The town would have done its own. If the town is not taking it over and industrializing it, commercializing it, the research will just be useless. So if I will take you on before I go to Engineer Jibade on the issue of affordability, like what size do you think from a 12 square meters should we be looking at that can help, that is still very okay for
a bedroom, as long as, because we know our environment here, A 10 square meter can still be ideal for a bedroom as long as it's cross ventilated.
Okay.
I think 10 square meter.
9?
No, 10.
Okay,
I'll say 10.
You say 10.
Because a bedroom.
Because I would have thought 3 by 3, 9 should be okay.
I think 10 should be the minimum.
Okay, 10 should be the and cross ventilation as well.
Yes.
And that should serve. I mean, a whole 2 square meters across a construction project, that's a lot of savings there, and it can bring in some affordability, really.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. So, Engineer Jibade, speaking to the issue of space and materials.
Well, I always speak on the materials.
Okay, great. Okay, great.
Before I even go on that, I want to actually make an addendum.
Okay.
What architect I just said.
Yeah.
Regarding his comment about this status and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that reminds me of the discussion that came up with a staff of the federal government.
Okay.
I think last year.
Okay.
He was being interviewed on he was trying to talk about researches and development.
Okay.
In fact, Nigerian universities have the best of researches.
Wow.
They
They're just there in the universities.
Universities talking there. And actually the man said he visited a friend of his, a foreigner,
Okay.
abroad, who is a professor. And at his backyard, he has an airfield. He has an aeroplane. A professor.
Oh, wow.
Meanwhile, our professors in our universities cannot even afford to even train their children, even to send their children to go to any higher school. Well, they can't if they leave the university environment, they are stuck. They don't have a house on their own.
Most of them.
So he is now wondering. And if you sit the two professors, our own professors,
and that other.
I can bet you our own professors will beat them to argument. But the link between what they know and the development of that idea into reality, into
commercial value.
Commercial value is what is killing every research that we have tonight. This is the problem. And that is why it seems I think this is the phone that I'm going to hold. I had a son that did science.
Okay.
And there was a day when he came back, I said, can you write a program and do a small calculator that it will not be 1 plus 1 and give us 2 only. That's what I want. You can't.
Is this studying computer engineering?
Yes.
And
Computer science.
Computer science. And what year?
That is 2000.
No, what level was he? By the time you were asking.
He was a
graduate, and he couldn't write a code to say what your science got to do.
When he now went to this Ikeja here,
Aptech or any of those places.
He's even a
Ikeja village.
No, this New Horizon.
Okay. New Horizon.
He became an instructor there.
Okay.
After 6 months training.
Okay.
And it is what he did in the training he did here and there
that he could now use to provide him with Naira and Kobo. But what he did for the 5 years in school, nothing. It was just textbook knowledge. This day when he now talks, in fact, everybody is now inviting him here and there. Well. So what I'm saying in effect is that there are researches. And I said between that theoretical aspect and the calculator, what is it? He called the process Arduino. Arduino is where the program you write, how you can, the process where you change it to a hardware that become tangible, that you can use it to add 1 plus 1 that will make it 2. It's only now there's nothing like that practicing on in Nigeria now. But we have the best of programmers in Nigeria. They can scam even is it Bill Gates or Elon Musk? No, they don't have to just be scamming. They are the best. I will use that because that is the height of it. Because if you don't know something, there's no way you can actually outdo somebody like that. I get you. Let me quote. I get you. So be that as it were. Let's go back to the materials. I think bamboo is being overflowed, and there's a long way to go in the case of bamboo. Okay, before we can be using it. It can be used, because nobody dare stick his neck now. And for instance, if you now tell
Mr. I'm sorry, I want to use Mr. Debo.
Okay.
This is your estate that you want to build. Let's go to the bush and get loads of bamboo and store them. So I think it has to go through some process.
Yeah. Research.
Processes.
Okay.
Even the bamboo itself.
Yeah.
It has to go through some
Processes. Yeah.
before it can be toughened.
Yeah. To
Meanwhile, it is
material, tensile strength and all.
From researches, we heard that our hair, the strand of it, is stronger than steel. If you can fine-tune steel to that
Strength.
diameter and test the two, our hair will be more ductile than steel. That is, steel will snap first.
Before.
So, but now, if that can happen now, who will tell us when would bamboo snap? Already, we are having a problem with steel now, whereby 12 mm and 16 mm in some cases of different brands are matching.
As in diameter?
Yes.
But I thought in diameter, it's just like just use your caliper, you will know it.
Yes.
It's written on it, embossed on it.
That is 16.
That brings me to what I want to.
No, sorry, I want to confirm.
Yeah.
It's written on embossed on it that this is 16 mm. But if you put your caliper, it will gauge at 12.
No, maybe 13 or
The
12.5.
best thing for whoever wants to buy steel now is to, as you're going there,
To have your caliper in your pocket.
Now that now brings me back to
And that's apart from the test for strength.
that is apart from the test for strength.
That's just the size.
And if you know the treatment that goes into steel, that is the carbon content that gives it its property. The right quantity of carbon that are tapped into it.
Yeah.
We do, the people who are producing here, nobody is monitoring them. That brings me back to my initial discussion here that I want maybe the government to look into this seriously, and I want you to make a case of suggestion that the body that are regulating all these materials in Nigeria, especially this sun, they must be, if they are professionals there, they are compromised. But they must be Nigerian Sort of Engineers members there in large quantity that can sway their decisions. So that because if I have my name in there, when I know that my name is at stake, and the company now wants to pay me off to produce lesser quality, I will accept because I know I'm going down. So they must reconstitute the body of Standard Organization of Nigeria to include the Nigerian Sort of Engineers.
And I think that's where it starts.
If they are not, because I don't know now, because I am supposed to have had information about the profile of those members that have been constituted all this while. Are they engineers?
I think there are engineers there. I think there are.
Engineers are there?
I think so.
I don't know.
It would be very funny if we consider the standard.
There were times they were producing, we were buying 10 mm as 12 mm. There were times we were buying it, and I have a friend that says, even when I live here in the evening, I'm going to his office. His job may spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the factory where they produce.
At the foundry.
And when they bring this in and I question him, he said, well, that's what they produce. And people are there who are compromising. When these people pay them, there's nothing anybody can do about it.
So you say building will collapse.
And you say building will
collapse.
That is why I said, let us go back to the empirical.
Okay.
Back to my initial speech.
Okay.
That the empirical is that let us get all those rudiment materials. Let us get them standardized. Let the system work. Whereby I don't need to go to a sawmill to select. Because now if I want a straight concrete now, I have to start buying yellow wood. This yellow wood is not grown in Nigeria. They are brought from abroad, and they have dry cleaned them. They are standard and they are straight, and no weather can deform them any longer. But if you hear the cost of one, can anybody pay for the contract of the formwork in the contract?
But if you buy yellow wood, you don't use it for just one contract.
That is it. Then if you give me a job of
That goes well.
give me a job of 10 million, then I use 5 million only.
To buy wood. And you are not sure whether you get another quarter even after that one.
I still have cement, granite, and whatever.
I get you.
These are the issues.
Wow. So
if we now set up a situation, let us have a system that will work. Let our system work, system of materials, let them work. So that I need only a phone call to bring in material in.
I get you, sir. I get you. So that will be. Well, let's try and take a closing shot now as we wrap up, because I feel that this matter is just very extensive. I know that we've covered very significant areas, but maybe your closing remark, if there are other things you want to cover, you can. So let's start from Builder Shegun Adeniji. What are your closing remarks as we wrap up?
So, because generally a lot of things are not done rightly, and there is only two ways, either the right or the wrong way. I think, and the government can participate by encouraging the National Orientation Agency, because I think people are already discouraged. People are bitter. So we need to first, this attitudinal change of doing the right thing. Because when we say they are using substandard, it's somebody that is reducing it from the bush. If the rod, they reduce the size, is from the factory. Somebody is behind it, somebody monitoring. So this change is very important. And two, professionals in the built environment, we have work to do. You understand? We need to be concerned. We should not just neglect that it's not my business, it's not my site. You see something, you see something. Then the regulatory bodies, we need to do more by like this kind of discussion. You understand? We should do more, because if you really want change, we still need to talk about it until we achieve it. So I think by addressing all these critical areas, the Nigerian Building Code will can be transformed into a robust regulatory document.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Engineer,
thank you,
yes,
Mr. Debo. Yes. Yeah, I want to conclude by saying this. Since morning we have all been talking about Nigerian Building Code. Is that not it?
Yes.
And it will not happen in air, in vacuum. For instance, this is a beam in my front. Now, if I want to test it so that I can develop a code for it, I have to know the sand probably from a Borodo, which I bring a sample of it. Then the granite from Adejana or from DC or wherever, know the strength. Then probably the water in this environment, test the hardness, the softness, or whatever chemicals that are, if it needed to be treated, things like that. So that by the time I now test, I can specify that if you have this beam of this depth with this load, this is the ultimate strength, this is the yielding strength, whatever. And if I cannot stand, or if I cannot practice these things physically, load it, that brings me to where the government will have to come in and set up an engineering practical center. Meaning, I would rather say where things like this can be done, because if you have to produce this beam to test to fail, somebody will have to pay for the materials, and no individual, even not even the body of Nigerian sort of engineers, although if probably all bodies now come together to build an engineering center, because such exist abroad. I remember watching a building competition. Whoever have you seen that on abroad? Not Nigeria.
A building competition that has happened in Nigeria too. I'm aware of
where they brought masons and they were building blocks.
Yes, I know a gentleman who does that. He actually recorded an episode on one of our friends' site as well.
And you think it's Nigeria?
No, it's Nigeria. I know. Not that I think. I know that happened. I think I can check the link.
Well, it has to be a big place, like I said, having different sections. for block laying, for carpentry, for steel bending. In fact, when it comes to concreting, where you want to actually develop the codes, you needed machineries that will be used for for loading and unloading all this material, these members. So if we don't have all these machineries, at least funding.
True.
So these are my
Wow. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a great time having this session, and I would just like to speak to the need for standardization. I believe in terms of economy of scale, in achieving that, I believe standardization will help us. For example, we can start with the architect and say, hey, can you give us a Nigerian building? Since we have 6 geopolitical zones, can you give us a Nigerian house that can be in the southwest Nigerian house, south Nigerian house, looking at our climate, our environment and all of that, northwest, central and all of that. So that if I'm producing a house in Nigeria and I want to achieve scale and affordability, I'll just produce it to the standard of Nigerian house, because with the Nigerian house design, there is the building, window size, door size, height of whatever. So a number of manufacturers will then manufacture these things, and they can manufacture quantity and bring down.
It was a big discussion at the Nigerian School of Architects last year.
Oh wow, can you imagine? I can beat down. I've been advocating for this for a long time. If we can have something like that, I believe it will help in terms of bringing down the cost. So standardization will enable us to really achieve economy of scale and encouragement of our local materials, as we have said. So we're looking forward to doing a communique on this discussion and sending it to the appropriate authorities. We believe that at least they will take some of the few things we've said there in coming up with the revised building code that Lagos State wants to have, revised national building code that Lagos State wants to have as its own building code. So here we will be drawing the curtain for today. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for making our time to be here. We really appreciate, and I believe that the industry can pay you, but the industry appreciates you a lot for what you have done. It's a pleasure to have been part of this, to have been the brain behind this and bringing this to impact the industry. Till I come your way another time, I remain yours sincerely, Debo Adejana, in the business of helping you do what? Cycle.